Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by, can't see because I've got my studio lights on and not got the remote in my hand, Neil, Righteous Force, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man Rising, Brian's Logic, the Adam Meakin, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hello, baby.
Friday.
It's Friday, but we don't normally mention that. Okay, we're going to do a quick shout out. So if you're watching this live, which hopefully you are now, you'll pick up this from the chat. But one of our own is moving and is requiring some financial support in order to do so. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least support Neil in his endeavour to raise a few quid. And I'm going to stick the share to this GoFundMe campaign that Neil set up yesterday. I was unaware of it till about 12 hours ago. But yeah, please support one of our own, Neil, in his endeavour to move to a place that won't cost him an absolute fortune to live and will hopefully benefit his children in terms of more opportunities. He's also got a job lined up there, and it's going to cost him a bucket load of money to actually move to, is it Alabama, Neil? Is that right? Is it Alabama you
Where are
going?
you going? Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Alabama.
So check it out.
Alabama.
There's a link. If nothing else, as I say with every single GoFundMe, if you can't afford to support Neil, please go and share the GoFundMe campaign. So just click on the share button and stick it on your Facebook page. You know, it's always good to help out a friend, and we're a tight-knit community in this regard. I know Neil will get some support. The other thing I will say, when you do use the GoFundMe campaign, it automatically tries to stick a 15% tip on. So once you've inputted an amount, what you have to do, if I'm going to give Neil $20 for the sake of argument, is reduce this amount down to zero, so you're only actually contributing the amount that you want to contribute rather than giving GoFundMe money. They do take a small cut from whatever it is that you raise anyway, so you know, don't feel guilty about it. But that's it. Yeah, so I've stuck a link in the live stream chat, and yeah, so hopefully you'll all go away and support Neil in his expensive endeavour to move. So yeah, there we go. That's how we're going to start out this show, along with a super chat.
Can I
go
say
on.
about Neil's GoFundMe very quickly? That Neil had his working life completely disturbed and brought to a halt due to COVID, like a lot of people out there. And he ended up then, the house he's been living in, all of a sudden, he now has to leave due to the landlord. So he needs to get, this was something he wanted to do, but it wasn't supposed to happen for another year or so when he had money to do it. But all that fell apart, and now he has to go. So he needs a bit of help. Thank you.
Right, it's an emergency.
Yeah, indeed. So Fibroach says, help Neil, deal. Thank you very much for the super chat. So yeah, hopefully you'll all support Neil in his move. Let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
Has anybody got a video lined up to critique today? Or are we just going to be relaxed and doing a chit-chat? What are we doing? Anybody know? I'm reactive, man. I don't care.
Yeah,
you
you should finish the one you left off yesterday.
There's a bunch of them on TikTok.
We finished that video.
Planet Peterson. Check out Planet Peterson on TikTok.
Oh, God.
No, you can't
There's
promote that someone
also
goes and checks anything
Professor
out
Dave on
anywhere other
Airplane.
than on YouTube. That's definitely not the case. Has he got a YouTube channel? Because if so, I mean, yeah, just, I don't know, if you can get it in a link to whatever video.
I believe
Ideally.
he does. It's Planet Peterson.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm running a live show. So, yeah, I mean, I could spend 10 minutes looking that up and maybe finding where that video is. But unfortunately, I'm running a live show. So if you did want to link it in one of the chats, then maybe we can go to it. but that would be really handy. And the same goes for the audience for that matter, right? So if there's a video, a couple of people have done this, but maybe you've not got the right idea. So I don't want to be mean to anybody. One of my Patreons sent me a link to a video and was like, hey, check this out. As in, can you critique this? Maybe he didn't mean that, but anyway. That particular video, just to cover it now, was saying that you can measure the distance to the sun off a flat plane with angles. Now, on surface level, that seems reasonable, right? No, it isn't. Yeah, it changes. And when it goes further away, it's a lower angle. Does that mean it's lower to the ground? No, it does not. Of course not. Now, number one, we don't know what the sun is. And number two, I don't necessarily want to critique what seems like somebody with good intentions. Just your average Joe flat earther, yeah, he's talking nonsense. I won't disagree with that. But in the scheme of things, I'm not saying he's not worth our time to critique, but it doesn't have an overriding point that we don't generally make in the housekeeping questions, like now, and I'm hoping someone will answer in that vein when I ask it. Any evidence of the distance to the sun on a flat earth?
No.
So yeah, we're not going to critique that video. Basically, you can't measure or utilize the angles if they're altering across the surface of a flat plane because it's getting closer to the horizon as it moves. I'm going to use this carefully into the perceived distance. Is that Brian? Hopefully.
Yeah. Sorry, my hands were wet. Yeah, you can't do that, and the reason you can't do that is that if you have to use trigonometry, which is internal angles and the lengths of the sides of a triangle. So if you do that at 45 degrees. And you do that at 46 degrees and you do it at 44 degrees, you get 3 different heights. So it can't be done. It's an apparent height because you're measuring with angles, which means you're measuring with perspective. You'll never know just by measuring perspective what height it is.
Exactly.
We don't even know if it has a height.
Well, you'd need one of two things. You'd need its actual distance to begin with, which negates, trying to get it. Or you'd need its actual size. Because then you can translate it from its angular size into the distance. You can back calculate it. But you're going to need one of those things. And you don't have any of them. All you have is an apparent size of the sun. That's it.
Yeah, and it's mostly it comes from the ballers telling flat earthers you can do this, so you should be able to do this. And flat earthers are going off doing it. You're like, no, the ballers know before you do it. Well, they actually didn't know until I pointed it out to them. That you can't do it. But they knew that flat earthers could do what they would do, and then the ballers could then critique it and debunk it. They knew they could debunk it, but they didn't realise why it doesn't work. They thought it didn't work because they can come up with some globe nonsense. No. So when you hear a baller telling you should be able to do this on a flat earth, that means they already have a physical assumption bias of the sun, number one. And number two, they're pre-assuming a load of different things. And it means they also don't understand what angles are and what you're actually measuring. So don't do that. They're making a fool of you when you do that. Don't do it. They're also
main
go on.
presumption that they presume is that they're going to go and do trigonometry when navigating. They're not. And the rules of trigonometry do not apply. The rules of right-angled triangles make sense, and that's what's applied within celestial navigation. But when we do celestial navigation, we're not doing basic trigonometry, which is why the side length, the height to the star, that length for the GP, it's why it remains theoretical. It's just an arbitrary height. We're not doing trigonometry.
Dave has signed infinite distances so that light can come in parallel. They don't even do it. They don't even claim that they do it.
Okay, so there's a couple of things just to round out my point, which is to say that if you've got a particular video, not necessarily some no-name flat earther that's making assertions that aren't right, that isn't really what we're trying to go after. It's more the fact that there's people who do have an influence, a very large influence, influencers as they're named, that are out on the circuit making incorrect assertions that do make us look bad. The second thing is to say, whenever you hear a globe earth assertion, and then you're asked, well, how does that work on a flat earth? Try and remember this. The reason you're being asked that is because they will have a positive claim in that regard. So once you understand that the reason you're being asked to explain why the sun disappears beyond the horizon, for example, How does that work on a flat earth? How do you explain sunsets? You might have heard that as a flat earther. There's two things to that. Do you make a claim about sunsets proving a flat plane? Do you need to make a claim with a sunset in regards to anything? If the answer is no, then ask yourself why you're being asked to defend it. Then you'll realise much easier that the reason you're asked to defend it is because it's far easier to go on the attack for your opponent's position that you need to actually promote. So if you're making a positive claim, it's much easier to get your opponent to defend their version of your positive claim, potentially before you even claim it. So then you've got them on the back foot when you've got your presupposition to put forward. They failed in their explanation for something they didn't claim if I'm using that trick as a globe believer. So I'm going to make a claim about how the seasons work with an orbital presupposition and an R value in the maths. I'm going to do that. I'm going to ask you, the flat earther, how do you explain your seasons on your flat earth model? So go through the process. Do I need to make a claim about how the seasons work? Am I making a claim about how the seasons work? Do I need to justify how the seasons work? No, I don't, do I? No, I'm not, am I? No, I won't be, will I? So why am I being asked that? Oh, because they have a positive assertion on the globe side that they need to defend, not you. So put them on the back foot. All right, you've got an explanation for how the seasons work. Let's hear it. Sorry, that needs an R value. Why are you assuming we're falling around rocks? Why are the rocks in a sky vacuum? You just pull their positive claim apart. And at the end, when it lies dying in tatters or in flames, metaphorically speaking, and they turn around to you and say, well, how does it work on a flat earth? No, I'm not making a claim about it. But you can then come back at them with a positive claim about how the flat earth is proven, like elevation angle measurements, for example. So you can then make your positive claim that you do want to defend, and then see how they get on with your positive claim that's irrefutable, and use the world over for navigating, as opposed to trying to explain how bloody sunsets and seasons work because they have a positive claim that they need to defend. Just pull apart their claim. It was our main criticism of the debate techniques used by Hibbler and Jeranism, Dave Weiss and Whitsitt. They're on the back foot the whole time because they're feeling the need to explain positive assertions from the opponent's side, rather than taking apart the positive claims, which are coming rapid fire. And further to that, they make the even more heinous mistake of trying to make their own positive assertions that they don't have empirical evidence to back. So they're being put on the back foot for the claims they're not making, and they're making up shit as they go along about the world they think they live in, to also make them look bad. Hence, total defeat was the outcome. But if you can recognise when you're being asked to prove something, that it isn't necessarily the case that you've got any reason whatsoever to be trying to prove that, you then put yourself in a much positive position, more positive position in debate, because you can start asking them to justify their claim. Hope that ramble made it absolutely clear. I summarised it 3 times because I think it's a very important point. Basically, this is avoidance of flipping the burden.
And there's a very... I'm echoing. And
No, we both started talking. Go ahead. I'll go after you.
thank you. Yeah, Nathan, you're making a very, very good point, actually.
So, of
It
course I
might
am.
be a trick. It's like a trick. What they do is they kind of play into our, if we have it still, youthliness to want to be right about things, like a kid, like wanting to do good to their parents, right? So they basically pull the flat earther in to start making assertions so that they can criticize that. And then the flat earther actually never gets to the real problem, which lies with the assertions of the belief of the baller. But they basically pull you in using your own enthusiasm, like, oh, I know this, haha. I'm so happy that I know this detail. But by going into it in that moment, they trick you, and then they got you. They got you by your enthusiasm. And
Well,
they're scot-free.
your desires as a flat earther are often torn because once you find out you've been lied to about, say, the sky, it then raises the question, what is the sky? So you'll be pondering it and many aspects of the world that you don't know now. So when someone comes along and goes, well, how do you explain it? There's a burning desire in your own, your internal mechanism that wants to explain it. Well, they're just feeding off that. Yeah, and it's not because they're somehow great trained psychologists. It's just it reeks from flat earthers that we're lusting for the knowledge. Yesterday in the after show, we were talking about how that's taken advantage of by flat earthers. For example, I've just disseminated, and Arwin's complimented. Thank you, Arwin. I was joking when I said, yeah, I know, it's a good point. But we're trying to disseminate a tool, a weapon that you can use in the battle of flat Earth versus globe Earth when you're out talking about it with somebody who might ask you to explain the seasons when you don't need to. So you can take that away, put it in your back belt. Next time someone asks you to explain something, you go, easiest answer, if you want the concise version of that, I'm not claiming that. I haven't claimed that. When did I claim that? Those are the answers you should give. You probably hear me saying it when I'm talking to fundies. I haven't claimed that. When did I claim that? You got a quote? Yeah? Because they're asking me to explain their claim. I've got a point at the end of this, Arwin. My point is that this is the gravy, and you've just had it. Now, if you choose, turn off the show, go away, on with your day. That's I'm not going to say it's the only useful thing that will come out of the show. There'll be plenty more. But that's something useful that you can take away and know next time you're put on the spot to explain something you haven't claimed, that you can use to refute it and move on with your positive assertions or debunking their claim that goes along with the reversal of proof that's happened. Now, I'm not saying that information, right, which could have been tucked away on a little video and put for members only, and then I could have said, right, well, there is a technique that you could use to stop the burden of proof being flipped. Go and become a member, and I'll let you in on the secret. Now, in that case, I'd be selling that tool as a useful tool, and it would be legitimate because you'd go there and you'd find that information out. But it seems a bit, a bit weaselly, a bit crap, even if it's a real tool. That's reasonable. Plenty of people put their stuff behind paywalls, and a lot of it's speculation. But in this case, my example would be a genuine tool. Same as talking about science and the scientific method to overcome fundies' arguments with science when they haven't got any. Same principle. That could all be tucked behind a paywall. It isn't. It's, as Adam summarised, this is all me reiterating, and a point that's come from Meekin, by the way, totally stealing his thunder and owning this. Anyway, after the fact, I can say smash the super chat to support this channel. In other words, there's a good chance there'll be another tidbit tomorrow, and you don't have to pay a dime. But I do need to pay the rent, and so does Neil need to move. So, go and support the GoFundMe, and hopefully give me money, because we need to live. But it doesn't alter the fact that every single person that comes here has no obligation, and they're still going to walk away with the same exact usefulness in terms of the information that they've gathered. Now, by contrast... Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I used to fall into that all the time until I learned that on this show from you, that I don't have to explain the seasons, because who might explain anything anyway? How do I know? I learned how to get out of it by listening to this show.
Not getting out of it, it's just understanding when you make a claim, the burden is on you to prove it. If you haven't made a claim, there's no necessity or burden on you. Now, if somebody's asking you, you're saying, why are they asking? Well, because they've got a burden to satisfy, and the chances are they can't satisfy it. And it's much easier to make their weak argument if you failed first. That's why it's done. But my point was that in our community, and this is discussed on yesterday's after show, which will come out on Monday on my second channel. So you can watch it now if you're a member. This discussion between all of us on the panel about a very particular video that was promoting a Rockfin paywall for gravy information that's fantastic. Now, based on the 10-minute clip that we saw, there's charlatanism that's being sold. Woo-woo nonsense that's not going to benefit you in the slightest. It's not going to give you any tools to defeat any arguments. It's not going to prove the nature of your Earth. It's just speculation that's come from 2015 with cartoons to sell you a Vedic way of thought. That's all it is. Now, given that it's being punted out as you can pay for this truth, it's a load of gravy, and we're being called scammers by these people for disseminating the truth of science and the scientific method, suddenly all the pieces have come together why that actually happened. Basically, there's a scam going on within Flat Earth. A scam using woo-woo religions to sell you into a worldview. And that's being punted by people who are using and abusing the terms of science as I've been saying since I went on Globebusters about 4 years ago and asked them politely if they could at least consider the idea of real science rather than the nonsense we got lied to with. Obviously, that had a massive detrimental effect on me, my growth, my channel, my income, all of the rest of the things. Now, that's continued recently in a proactive manner after Witsit Gets It, if you're not familiar with this recent endeavour, came here to promote this nonsense that they're now punting out on Rockfin for cash. Well, when we took it apart based on its lack of scientific validity, we were then attacked as science scammers because we stand in direct contradiction of their pseudoscience claims that they're asking people to donate, in quotes, money for. So, as that was again the discussion in part of the pre-show today, we're in a weird position where we've been attacked as scammers, and we've had to go into why are we being attacked as scammers when we're not. Yes, I ask for money. Everybody needs to live. That's how life is. Yes, I'd like it if people smashed the super chat and gave me PayPals and joined as memberships and all the rest of it. But it doesn't alter what happens on the show. Further to that, if you want to watch that discussion with all of the video being taken apart by all of the panel members, you can watch it for free on Monday, because I released the members-only information to the public several days later. But the point is, that's why we've got to address it. Typically, we just left them to it. Right, Adam? This didn't get discussed yesterday, but I'm going to re-bring it up now. We didn't care. Go do your paywall. We're not attacking John LeBon for his sync nonsense. I mean, his sync opinions. You know, that's his own opinion, and he can put it behind a paywall if he chooses to and promote it however he chooses. But he's not calling us scammers because we point out the lack of scientific validity when he claims it, if he does or doesn't. I don't know. I'm not a paid member of John LeBon's website. But I get a vague idea of what he talks about. Now, maybe it needs to be put behind a paywall for to avoid criticism from the open public, who are generally, not going to take into consideration some of the nuances and details that he thinks are important. But simultaneously, he's not attacking us as scammers, so who cares? But when we are, obviously we've got to look into why, and it's because it's projection. There are actually scammers in the flat earth, and we know who they are. We've got evidence to that effect. And they're proactively calling us out as scammers for that reason, because they need to promote their scam and promote their shit that's not scientific behind a paywall. And we're a threat to that.
I raise this because we appear to be part of the scam. They appear to be using us, or certainly the information we've shared over the past 5 or 6 years with them needed to be challenged, didn't it, to make this scam work? So it wasn't just attacking us first. The first attack was on scientific method, it proving things, when we were given silly hypotheses that would supposedly prove that science could change. These things were challenged, rebutted, and it's after that we were then called scammers. Remember, yeah. So this is why I wanted to speak out, demonstrate this, and demonstrate the text from their side, where they're saying, if you want the gravy, more truth, pay first, and then you'll get it. That is fundamentally scamming. That's not what I got into this for, and why I continue. I don't take a penny out of this game. You know what I mean? I'm lucky enough to earn my own living separately, and I do this for spreading the truth. I used to believe everybody was in it for that, and if they're not, that's absolutely fine. But to use us and the work we're doing to support your scam is the point where I stand up and point out your scam, you scammers.
Quick shout out to Uncle Ben. And thank you for the super chat. He didn't say anything. It just gives me money. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate the support. Also, Humble, can you pop yourself on mute when you're not talking? You're causing all sorts of chaos. Thank you. So yeah, check that out. That'll come out on Monday if you want to see the full discussion and dissection of the video that's promoting this paywall nonsense. Then check it out. It'll come out on the second channel. If you're a member, go and check it out now. The video that we talked about yesterday, that'll come out tomorrow. Go on, Owen.
Sorry. Just a quick joke. So you're not going to make a behind the paywall explain video about that Vedic picture and how it explains Dick Earth? Because I was really looking forward to that.
No, I mean, the things I put behind a paywall, I do put a few videos on Patreon. I know this isn't going to be particularly fascinating and it's a boring segue, but I'm going to say it anyway. What I put on Patreon is my projector's bust. in other words, hint, hint, I need money. That's the sort of thing I put on, right? My amp's blown up. Here's me doing a tweeter repair. That's the kind of thing I put on Patreon. Now, I got to be honest, even the Patreons aren't that interested, right? But it's my way of showing what I spend the money on. That's really all it is. And half the time, it's when I need more than I'm getting anyway. In other words, I live off the patronage. That's what I actually do. As much as in the blurb, it says, oh, it goes towards keeping the show maintained. Well, yeah, it goes to keeping the roof over my head that keeps the show maintained. But then when something actually busts, I normally do what, like Neil's doing. If you need more, you just have to put your hand out. Say, please help me. And it's humiliating. Nobody wants to e-beg. Even the people who are big YouTubers, when they're punting their merch, I know that they feel a little bit dirty about it. Yeah, that's just how it is. Right? And obviously nobody wants to say, I need your help. I would prefer, as I said in yesterday's show, and I aspire to be like Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel. Where you can put a video out and get 12 million views on it with the subject Flat Earth in the title, with a crap thumbnail with absolutely no effort that he's done with a Google search, stock image. That gets 12 million views. All right. That's what I aspire to. I'm a YouTuber. What's that? He covers Globe Earth. Pfft. No, I don't like that. No, we cover something different. But it wouldn't make any difference if I was comparing myself to a gardening channel as a YouTuber. You just want the exposure that you would hope you get. Now, given that in Congress they've told YouTube, make sure the preferred content is what people receive first. What's preferred content? Well, anyone saying we're wrong? That's how it works. Okay. I have to accept that and then realise that, yeah, it's slightly humiliating to put your hand out. But I will. Please smash the super chat. In all sincerity. I'll do that. Why not? I've got to live to run the show. And YouTube doesn't sustain that, unfortunately, through ad revenue. If it did, I wouldn't have to e-beg. And it would be lovely if I didn't have to e-beg. But I'm not scamming anybody. That's what we're being accused of. Why? Because we're part of a scam, aren't we? I want Adam to reiterate it again because I want to move on from this subject and maybe draw a line under it. We'll see.
Yeah. So for me, the reason I spoke out this week was it's been curious why we were dragged into this, why things that we agreed, why somebody like Jaron would.
You okay, Eleanor?
And saying science doesn't prove anything. It's become apparent now as we see that their truth is only attainable through a paywall. And this is the point why they attacked science, why they attacked us, because fundamentally they're selling you a set of encyclopedias, aren't they? They're trying to sell you some ropey bit of knowledge, but for you to believe what they're telling you, you've got to abandon the scientific method. You have to. That's why science can't prove things, because if it did, it's going to demonstrate that they're not proving anything to you. So it was important to undermine those principles first before you then go on to the Church of Ether, become a convert and hand over your tithes.
Right on. So what do we do
I'm
now?
still waiting.
I'm
still waiting.
Go on, Brian.
I think it was before me, Nathan.
Yeah. We have Professor Dave on airplanes, part 3, and Brian's ready to help. So that's in Master D when you're ready.
So just a point, just to maybe draw.
Wait, sorry, Brian. Sorry. Where did you say it was?
Master D, Master Debaters.
I was going to say, this is... yes, that's why we did it out of order, because we wanted Brian to be here. It's not at all. It's just the way it worked out, but there we go. Okay, give me a couple of minutes. If you can talk amongst yourselves, I'll get this all queued up.
What were you saying, Brian?
Yeah, a point to refract the curve which I made yesterday afterwards was that what's going on with Jaronism and Bob and them is with this Rockfin thing, that what they're actually doing is isolating their audience. Because when they get their audience to pay the donation and go to their Rockfin page, what happens is the audience then don't hear any other, they don't get any other views that are contradictory to that. So they isolate their audience. So the audience pays to hear what they want to tell the audience. And we're not there to tell the audience, no, this is not correct, and you can't, or to point out where it's morally wrong or
What?
whatever.
How are they isolating them? I mean,
Well,
they can still go to YouTube channels. I mean, but what I think is rather happening is that because they have paid money to get the information, the investment makes it valuable to them. It's like the scam effect. They bought into it. Now they have to hold on to it. I think that's rather the effect, right? Because they bought it. They bought the information. If it turns out to be shitty, well, they won't like that. So they'll probably reinforce that it's valuable in their minds because they paid for it.
Right, but you're commenting on another possibility, which is very true, and Brian's commenting on another possibility, which is very true.
Right, it's
They're certainly
kinda
trying to isolate them. They're trying to isolate them through peer pressure, but nobody's technically preventing those same people that buy those videos from them to also go to YouTube to FED. I mean, who's literally stopping them? Nobody.
How would you?
It's not that people
Hold on. How would you refute something that you didn't hear, Arwen?
I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the effect of participating.
No, I ain't disagreeing with that, but I'm saying there may be another reason for having it behind a paywall. Because if you can't hear the information, you're not going to be refuting it.
Right. So you tell your
An added
audience
bonus.
that look at these guys over here talking about science proves things. What a bunch of scammers. Yeah? You understand that? Science proving things is a scam. Now come and have a look at my stuff behind a paywall. Yeah? Now if we are the ones that are disseminating how their bullshit is bullshit and it's all behind a paywall and they've told the people who come and pay for it that we talking about science are all scammers, then everything's all lined up nicely, isn't it? All the ducks are in a row.
Yeah, it's very
Exactly.
cultish.
See, once you get the people to pay for the Rockfin donation, and go and watch it on Rockfin, Arwen's point is very correct. Once they paid for this, they didn't give it more relevance because they had to pay for it.
Yep.
You know, when people get something for free, it's psychological. They think it's not as good. Whereas when you pay for it, people start thinking that it's worth something. But
Right.
not only then do we not refute those claims because we
Becomes
don't hear them,
personal.
but people start viewing the information they're getting as more important than it really is.
I'm going to
Not saying
reiterate
that
Alwyn's
they
point a bit
value
more. Hold on, Alwyn. So I saw this while I was researching computer components, right? So there's a certain faction of people on a forum that have gone out and purchased an item. In other words, they've handed over money for a certain thing. And then in the review that the video's about, the person reviewing it puts the item they've bought below a standard of something else. In other words, it's not as good as what they're reviewing. Now, the person in that instance will go nuts in the comments or in the forum or whatever. This person's an idiot. They don't know how to test. They don't know what they're doing with the equipment. Their procedures are all wrong. Their benchmarks are all wrong. Because they're trying to affirm their own bias and their own purchase. I couldn't have purchased the wrong thing. There couldn't be something better than the thing I've purchased. This guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. That's what it does once you've actually handed over money. You seek your own affirmation that you've purchased the right thing. I did it with this computer without actually handing any of my own money over. I did a GoFundMe, raised an amount to upgrade the current computer. Someone bought me a computer, and then I used all of the money that wasn't mine to begin with, that was donated, to buy a monitor, accessories, cables. But I still went through the process after I got the computer of going, the RAM runs at this speed and costs this amount of money. Is it worse than something that's a slower speed and cheaper? It's not very good value. And you start mentally doing these gymnastics for the justification for the price versus performance of something because it's already been purchased. So you start second guessing yourself. And if someone said, you just bought the wrong memory, should have bought DDR4 instead of DDR5, you're an idiot. You don't understand how DDR5's better. That's what you get because there's been a transaction. So once you've got somebody on the hook and they're in your whatever the paywall provider video supported network is that you're a part of, once they've given over the money and they've gone and listened to the stuff, and everyone in the comments is all, yeah, this is going to change our world. We're going to get free energy. We're going to be gods. You go, yeah, we are going to be. And someone comes along like us and says, where's the scientific experimentation for it? Yeah? Unless you've already poisoned the well and pointed out to that person that the person that's going to ask you for the scientific evidence is a scammer, then, you're going to have that guy just going out and blindly defending whatever nonsense he's paid for because he's well behind it. He's already paid for it. So it's the same way instead of a financial sense, when you talk to academics about heliocentrism, right? They have invested, and in some cases financially as well, their time into this subject. It has an inherent value. Value doesn't necessarily just mean pound notes or dollars. It means how much intrinsic worth does it have to a person. Now, if you've invested your life into heliocentrism, look at Phil Bell as an example, right? A lot of his career is dedicated to the notions of heliocentrism. So he has got a huge, I don't want to say financial because it isn't, but a huge value ascribed to that thing. Now, every time he comes along and says, you know what you're talking about when you talk about Coriolis effect with a merry-go-round or a roundabout or what, it's not Earth. It's like, no, what you're doing is defending that RAM that you purchased, because you don't want to be seen to be an idiot when you've already invested in that RAM, or in his case, invested much of his professional career in the notion of what his professional career is for. And in this case, it's heliocentrism. That's why he's here. To defend his biases. That's all he's here for. Pain relief. Yeah? To tell us, you're an idiot, you haven't benchmarked the Earth properly. That's what he's doing.
Exactly. People have too much pride. They don't want to admit that what they paid for is not the real deal.
No one wants to be scammed. And often people will support the scammers. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Is it Munchausen syndrome? I've forgotten what it's called when the kidnappee falls in love with the captor. I've forgotten the term for it.
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, there we go. There in the end. It's like Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, once you've invested in something, you want to defend it. You want to, go out of your way to show that no, the cult hasn't brainwashed me. Oh, okay. But being duped is far, far harder on a person after the fact than before the fact. If you say, look, that's a con, this is how the con works. You get an email and they tell you that your account's going to be shut down and you need to give them their password so they can update it. Then they get your password. Whereas the guy who's given out the password and is still talking to the Indian scam center and they're saying, no, we can get your passwords back. We just need your credit card details now. When you're trying to tell that person, no, they're never going to give you your password back. Ever. No, and that person will tell you, no, they're just asking for £50. If I just give them the £50, I can end all this now. No, once you've given them £50, they'll want another 100. No, they won't. They're telling me they've got my password. They've shown it me in a secure location. Ugh. You can't convince that person. They end up literally defending the scammer.
Yeah, if you take on board someone like Professor Dave, where someone like him, doesn't have to be him, just he's an example, a handy example, who has made a persona based on heliocentrism and being against anything outside of heliocentrism, whether it's us or anything else, then how does he actually say to himself, hang on, it's not a globe? He can't. He's stuck. He can't say that to himself.
And there's rewards out there. I mean, that's the only sort of downside to us on the flat Earth side. When I talk about in a happy way that the anti-flat earthers are trapped down here in hell with us. The ones that are contemplating the idea of flat Earth, going through the mental gymnastics of unjustifying how the Earth is flat, so that they can sit back in line with the blue pill reality that they've been fed before they started considering it. Those are anti-flat earthers here in hell with us. Well, it's not hell for me. It's just poverty. It's not hell, just poor. There's no flames. There's no damnation. But there is for them. They see it as the end of the world. But it's also quite lucrative, right? So at least they're getting paid well. You know, Professor Dave, oh, Ryan, are you into this flat earth thing on YouTube? Oh, no, definitely not. With a big, massive smile on his face as he counts all the coins coming in from the revenue of the ads that we don't see. Yeah? So it might be that he's going through the same mental pain as someone like Conspiracy Cats when, well, if it was flat, I'd have to consider all the other lies I've fallen for. He might be going through that process. That's probably why he's here. He's an anti-flat earther after all. But, like I say, at least it's lucrative for him. And Dan. And whoever else.
Yeah, they end up being scammers because the only other option is to admit that they're wrong.
Right. So they keep buying into it, buying more and more into the idea that they must silence the opponent because they're, in their own mind, recognising slowly that they're wrong and where they're wrong when it's pointed out that they're wrong and how they're wrong. So they double down on, these people are idiots, let's censor them out of existence. Why haven't they got laser beams trained on them and the government going around and killing them? That was Dave's attitude. So very passionate about it then, Dave. Yeah, I don't have those thoughts about you. Ever. I don't think, well, I wish Dave was censored out of existence. I wish Fight the Flat Earth was blown up with bombs. I never think that. I don't actually ever give him any thought at all. Proactively, zero. Reactively, it's part of my show. Great fun when we pull apart the numpty nonsense of them live. But it doesn't have any influence over my life. But for Dave, he's thinking about us having lasers trained on us, literally.
But isn't that where pride comes in? Instead of like coming to the reality, coming to the truth, they double down. Isn't that pride?
Yeah, and it's encouraged. They're paid for it.
Recently,
surely though, as well. Sorry, guys.
No, go on one day.
Go on one day.
To be given some truth.
Go on one day.
And one of us or somebody goes in there and debunks that truth. Obviously, you'd be asking for your money back, and at that point, is any sort of legal sort of implications then?
It depends on the scale of the scam. If they've just led you along a garden path of woo-woo, then no, I wouldn't say you've got any repercussions. They had information, in quotes. You paid for it and listened to it. What was the transaction? The transaction was viewing the material. If the material was Whitsitt sat with two joysticks, legs crossed, going for 5 hours, and that was the good gravy, and you went, oh, I want my money back. Well, tough luck. That was the material. What, you didn't like it? Oh, well. You're going to a play, and it's touted as the best thing you've ever seen, and it's two people sat cross-legged with joysticks for 2 hours going, and you go, I want my money back. The theatre owner goes, no, you sat and watched it. Or if you walked out immediately, I want my money back. Nope. You don't like it? All right. Bye-bye. Don't come again.
Yeah, it's like if you pay to go into a gay nightclub and you don't know it's gay till you go in there.
Speaking from experience, Brian, how did that go?
Easy.
I knew that was going to happen. I knew I was going to get labelled with that. But no, I'm just saying, if that happened, what can you do?
Have a laugh. I've been into plenty of gay nightclubs. Gay nightclubs have a lot more fun going on because there's stuff going on, actually things happening that are exciting. Not to do with the sexuality between men, just the fact that there's an atmosphere. So I had plenty of gay friends back when I was out on the party scene, and they would take me to their clubs, and I go, wow, this is a lot more fun. Not getting laid at the end of the night, but that's okay, I'm still having a laugh.
Gay nightclubs have a lot of the best looking women in them because the women go there because they're not going to get hassled by
That was going to be my next point. But yeah, I didn't pull any of them either. But there was, you're right.
But, it's recently Conspiracy Cats has had a couple of debates, and supposedly, I did hear one of them with Flatside, and he's had another one with Whitsitt or something like that. And supposedly, in the second one, he was like he was in the first one, which is very nasty, very, combative. It's like he was never that way. It's like that tells you that he's under serious pressure. He was supposed to have left there. He said, see you later, handed his channel over to MC Tune or somebody, and see you later, and best of luck, and off into the sunset. And now he's back in a panic. It's like, you can't hide those things, Cats. It's obvious that there's something, but it's subconsciously that's bothering you. You're losing sleep or something. because if that's the way you need to be. Now, I might get angry at someone in a debate. I might even abuse someone in a debate. But it's not because I've been kept awake at night. You know, I'm not sailing off into the sunset. See you later. Best of luck, lads. We have the globe debunked, and then coming back a while later in a panic because I know it didn't happen.
We hold up a big mirror to their turmoil, their internal mental turmoil in regards to this subject. All we are is just a reflection of that, and they hate it. They don't want to see it. They want to destroy it. Now, do we care? Am I looking at them thinking you're a reflection of the evil society? They're not. They're not normies. Nobody behaves like they do. Their vindictive, vicious bullying isn't something that is generally accepted in society at any level. It is here. It's perfectly acceptable for you to bully a flat earther on YouTube or in general society. Perfectly acceptable for some reason. Oh, well, we're not a protected group. All right, bully them away. Yeah, go ahead. No worries.
How's the airplane video coming?
Did you want to do that?
Ted. This is 1 second. Leave us finish. This is a good topic. Give us a second, right? Right. What if you? I'm losing me train of thought now. If you are a lawyer, then you presume everyone else is a lawyer, right? So if you're thinking that way, you presume, well, I'm a lawyer, so the rest of them are all lawyers, and that kind of makes it okay in your head to be a lawyer, right? In some ways, but if they came out and admitted, like if conspiracy cats came out and said, look, I can't prove it's a globe anymore, you've got a point, right? He's under the impression that we would absolutely humiliate him and laugh at him for 100 years. I wouldn't do that at all. I go, yeah, welcome to the club. We don't know. We don't know what we thought we knew.
I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even welcome him.
his compadres.
Let me just agree with Brian. I wouldn't even welcome him to the club because I wouldn't care. All right, you're a flat earther now. All right, I couldn't care less. I care as much about you being a flat earther as about you being a globe believer in opposition to me. In my general day-to-day thoughts, I don't give you any thought. What's that? You're a flat earther now? Yeah, I still don't care.
Yeah, but they would attack if one of us came out and said, like the problem is they think that we would behave I'm going to use the term en masse, like they would behave, which is to abuse us and ridicule us. Whereas I don't think in general we would behave that way. Flat earthers in general just go, yeah, we've been trying to tell you, and that'd be the end of that.
I don't think so. I don't think they actually think that. I think they're more afraid of the wrath of their compadres. I mean, look at these guys. Look at what they've been doing to us. They'll be doing it to them too.
We've got John. He's told us he's here partly because of a guilty conscience for that exact reason. So no, we know that's not the case. We've been told firsthand by John.
Stereotype fallacy. Anyway, I said planes. Brian said trains. All we're missing is automobiles. Can we get on with it?
I don't know. Everyone's having a good laugh, talking, but we'll cover a bit of Dave.
Hey everyone. So with the first two videos in this mini-series...
Go ahead, One Deck. I'm sorry, 10th, One Deck.
Sorry, I'm just saying anti-flat earthers are actually flat earthers, but they're just too scared to admit it.
Yes.
That's what they are.
Yes, that's correct. That's why flat earther is in their name. Anti-flat earther includes flat earther in the title for a reason. Correct.
I demonstrated that anyone can prove to themselves conclusively that the Earth is a sphere by...
Did we get that? Did anybody pick up on that? This is part 3. We listened to all the other parts, Dave. No, you didn't. You didn't provide that at all. What you did was show false dichotomies with straw men models, and you didn't actually present a globe at all. What you did present, after telling us we weren't allowed to critique it, was CGI, including the back half of the moon, and then justified why you couldn't see it. So you haven't done that. You're just lying.
By looking at objects in the sky and...
Looking at objects in the sky. But that's not what you did. You showed the back half of the moon in a CGI rendering, and then you strawmanned us with a azimuthal equidistance north-centric projection of a globe model that came from the celestial sphere model and elevation angle measurements taken from a flat plane. So we covered all of your assertions in regards to the objects in the sky and your presuppositional orbital motions that they held. But we covered all of this. This didn't prove anything, Dave. Wow. Did the scriptwriter tell you that you proved it?
Thinking with their brains. Those objects were the moon and the stars. So for this one, let's get even simpler and talk about man-made objects in the sky.
The moon and the stars, Dave told you that they go in the opposite direction in the southern hemisphere that he begged the question of. Hello, you complete idiot! They all move in the same direction. You told an audience they went in opposite directions. That's because you are stupid. So what, you think you did a really good job of proving stuff with the stars? You told literally an audience they went in opposite directions in the south hemisphere. Hello? You're thick. You have no idea what the stars do. You've never observed them.
He's at present claiming, before he gets on to his actual topic of this video, he's claiming elevation angles. They can't work on a curved surface. And they are mere measurement of perspective. So he's claiming something as a proof that is a debunking of what he's trying to prove. And the measurement is a perspective measurement, not a measurement of our curve. So he has nothing before he even moves onto the point of the video.
Continuing with the theme of requiring precisely zero science to show that Flat Earth is the dumbest hoax on the entire internet, one thing that anyone can do to prove that the Earth is a sphere is
Okay. So, without science, we'll cover this again just so it's summarised. It's a concrete noun. So saying disproving or proving the flat Earth, that's a concrete noun. With science or without science. That's a method that deals with cause and effect relationships. You're an idiot.
to look at commercial airline flights. Let's revisit the flat Earth map, or
this isn't a flat Earth map. This is the azimuthal, equidistant, north-centric globe projection. The lines on it were acquired by flat Earth elevation angle measurements, as were all of the models. That's how they're made. It's also a globe projection. So you're now holding up a globe projection and telling us it's our flat Earth model. I've never claimed this is my model. Further to that, models are pseudoscience. We don't live on a model. It's a reification fallacy to assert it, even if you're holding it up as a straw man false dichotomy, as Dave has been doing for the last 3 videos. This is not my model. It's an azimuthal, equidistant globe projection. So you're saying that this is a failure of a globe projection? Why does it need to be projected flat anyway? Can we see the globe version of it, please? Why are we using the azimuthal, equidistant, flat projection when it's a globe projection? Do we get to see the globe version of it? Is that why it fails? Maybe you don't know anything about anything when it comes to these maps and models.
or the thing they pretend isn't their map, but it totally...
So we pretend it isn't our map. It's an azimuthal, equidistant, north-centric globe projection. That's what it is. You're saying the globe projection makes it my map, does it? Why would I have a map as a flat earther that's got the name globe projection in it? It's an azimuthal, equidistant, north-centric globe projection with use of lines that can only be measured and only operate on a flat surface. The Earth itself, that's where they've come from.
Come on, Brian. We're finished. The latitude and longitude grid that is shown on the AE or the distance map, that is flat Earth. The position of all the continents and countries, especially south of the equator, that is based on a globe. That's why they're stretched. So they've just manipulated the latitude and longitude positions to suit the globe, south of the equator. That's all they did. But the latitude and longitude grid is is based on flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. That's the only way you could get that. And because Polaris is at your horizon, is at 0 degrees when you're at the equator, then everything past the equator they just made up. You know, instead of sticking with what was actually happening, which is the lines of longitude diverging out from a center point, they brought the lines of longitude back into another center point, antipodal to the one they created.
It's because they can't make a map, so they just use this.
So we can't make a map. All of them were made using flat Earth elevation angle measurements. The equatorial plane was derived from a circle of equal elevation measurement to Polaris. That's what your equator is. And if it's used in mapping, you'll be using that equatorial plane with a globe burger slapped around it and you sanding in the middle at a molten iron core point. So when you say we haven't made one, They all came from flat Earth elevation angle measurements, without exception. Maybe when you tell us that we can't make a map, you should bear in mind that your globe projections started life as the equatorial plane and the angle measurements to Polaris to give you these lines on all maps. They wouldn't be useful for measuring circles of equal elevation to find your way home if you get lost, if they were curving, because they wouldn't work with angles anymore. And that's how navigation's done. So if you're now to use this map, it is still very useful. But you're saying it's a flat Earth map because we don't know how to make one. We're not cartographers. I've never claimed to be one. Why would you be holding up some stereotyping fallacy like all flat Earthers suddenly instantly need to be cartographers? We're not. But we do know as flat Earthers, us specifically, that the maps and models were all derived from elevation angle measurements to the lights in the sky off a flat plane. So how are you going to square that circle, Dumbo?
Embarrassingly for them, this is actually
one second, Nathan. Every OS map, which is the most accurate maps in the world, which is the ones used by GPS, they're all two-dimensional and three-dimensional Cartesian coordinates maps, X, Y, Z, X, Y, and X, Y, Z. They're all flat Earth maps, all created by the best cartographers we have.
Azimuthal equidistant projection of the globe.
Oh, so you do know it's a projection of the globe then? So you're going to tell us how this globe projection fails? So the globe projection fails and you're going to tell us how? I see. Maybe you could use a different one. I mean, they've all come from the same place. What about the lines on it? They've come from flat Earth and the angles that you'll use if you're mapping or navigating anything ever. That's how it's done.
That's right. The flat Earth map is
not a flat Earth map. It's an azimuthal equidistant globe projection. Why have you now relabeled it a flat Earth map when you've just labelled it accurately as the azimuthal equidistant globe projection?
A map of the globe, taken from the perspective of looking down at the North Pole. And
so, in your last two videos, when you held this up in strawman false dichotomy, you're now telling us that it's actually a failed globe projection. So why did you hold it up as a flat Earth map? When you know that you're lying and strawmanning us with a globe projection. That's because that's what Dave does. He sets up a false dichotomy because that's what's in the script.
And flattening out its surface into a plane so that a three-dimensional surface can be shown in 2 dimensions. That's
right, and where did you get the lines from both of these models? Now we've got an actual globe cartoon. Where did these lines come from? What's this line here at the centre point? What's that called? Is it called the equator? How'd you measure that? Is it with flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris? What about if you start navigating? Will you be standing on this surface? Or will you be at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth at the equatorial plane so that it can work with angles, Dave? You don't seem to know very much about maps and models. You just know that this is a failed globe projection, even though you've held it up in false dichotomy strawman as a flat Earth map for the last 2 videos.
That's why everything is distorted with no consistent scale.
Because it's a globe projection. So because it's a globe projection, that's why it's all distorted. It's amazing that Brian knew that before we even played your video.
Secretly, flat Earth priests know what this is, and they know...
Secretly? What? No, it's a failed globe projection when you hold it up in false dichotomy strawman? It's not a secret. We know it and we humiliate you with it. What, you're going to reverse that like somehow we're holding a secret that we know it's a globe projection? Yeah, where do you think the lines came from? You haven't covered that bit. So you take it one step back to it being a globe projection, so you can say, oh, they're both really globes. This globe's a globe and this flat Earth's a globe. No, mate. Both of them came from flat Earth elevation angle measurements.
No, it doesn't work, but they're dumb and lazy and can't come up with anything better, so...
Sorry, you can't come up with anything better. They're your globe projections that have failed.
They stick with this and simply deflect anytime these facts are brought up.
The deflection of the fact that it's a globe projection? That's your argument? You're saying we'd have to deflect against that? No, we'd point out that it's a failed globe projection, and how the distortions you've just described in your failed globe projection have distorted it when you project it from the globe. And furthermore, the globe model that you held up would have also come from flat Earth elevation angle measurements. And maybe you could show us the origins of your globe to contest what I've just said, Dave. Maybe you could do that. This is gravy, by the way, if you're watching.
Nathan,
this is actual gravy.
Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan, he said that he proved exclusively. Now he says the priests are dumb and lazy, show anything that's proof. Rejecting who he is. That's everything he says about him, and you know where from.
Well, I'm glad you were so concise about it, 10th.
He's been having bad reception lately.
Yeah, he is. He has. Right, I'm going to do one last plug to Neil's GoFundMe campaign. So check it out. I will stick a link right now in the live stream chat. So go and check out. Oh, come back. Share. There we go. If indeed you can't afford to contribute to Neil's GoFundMe campaign, then just go onto the GoFundMe campaign right now, if you're in the live audience, and just share it. Just smash the share button and say, a friend needs some help. And hopefully someone else who sees your post will go out and contribute to him in the meantime. In the meantime, from the people who have contributed, so a quick shout out to Fibre Oats and Paul Cam. Paul Cam, that's... maybe I shouldn't say. So thank you very much to those of you who have supported the GoFundMe campaign for Neil. Hopefully he'll get towards his target sometime soon. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely